Good evening, Papua New Guinea, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Business PNG for the year 2015. In the past several years, the retail industry in the country has had quite the makeover, with new shops and boutiques sprouting up around the country. And now, once again, a new addition is here to change the face of the retail industry yet again. Jax of PNG, introduced by City Pharmacy Limited, is the new kid on the block, already boasting world-name brands exclusive to PNG, all in a large store space at the Waigani Central Complex in the nation's capital. The Business PNG team captured all the fanfare at the shop's grand opening last week.
Affordable clothing and internationally recognized accessories still remain unreachable here in Papua New Guinea, despite the fact that there is a demand. For PNG businesses involved in this particular area, it is a challenge to bring in high-quality, internationally recognized clothing, cosmetics, chocolate, and liquor to their customers. There is also a demand in Pacific Island clothing designs and accessories. However, these are hard to find in today's market. Last week, CPL Group, in partnership with Jax of Fiji, opened their new clothing brand Jax of PNG at Waigani Central. Jax of Fiji, located in Fiji, has now decided to bring the retail business outside of Fiji and to Papua New Guinea. Chairman of CPL Group's company, Mahesh Patel, said that Jax of PNG will draw fashionable shoppers in Port Moresby, and that he was pleased that Jax of Fiji shares CPL's vision of the future potential of retail business here in PNG.
The whole concept we've been talking about for about 2 to 3 years now, because once as a retailer, what we're looking at is to say, how do we fulfill the customers' desires of their wants? And there has not really been a structured, organized fashion retailer in the country. And believe me, we've written to hundreds of companies around the world, in Australia, and really have not had replies. So on a number of my trips to Fiji, I'm sort of encouraging those people. I thought, well, smaller companies may be more conducive in coming here. And even Jax, when the directors came to Papua New Guinea about 3 years ago, they didn't have the comfort level. So we persevered, we said, listen, we approached other companies as well. Finally, they came for another visit, and they were sort of quite comfortable into sort of, okay, we're ready to launch. So it's really been a project almost 3 years in making.
With the demand for quality brand new clothing for average Papua New Guineans in Port Moresby, Jax is hoping to supply customers with the best specific clothing and other accessories. With the prices of quality clothing wear skyrocketing here in Port Moresby, consumers are left to shop at cheaper second-hand clothes imported mostly from Australia. Large companies are hoping to change that around and give PNG customers a chance to buy quality, affordable clothing.
Why we are exploring it from different countries is to make sure that we get the best quality and we can give the latest trendy designs, and at the same time give our customers the offer of the pricing, like in which that's the key over here in Papua New Guinea. I think it needs to be affordable for people to come and buy it. So that's how we...
The store will sell imported clothing from Fiji and from other countries. Jax of PNG will be selling clothing for infants, children to adult clothing. You will also find major brands Rip Curls, clothing, handbags, jewelry and accessories. Omprakash Sesh Hadari, General Manager for Commercial, CPL, told Business PNG that they were hoping to start selling PNG designer wear and allowing PNG designers to pitch their clothing lines to Jax of PNG to be made in Fiji and imported back into PNG.
I think it's worthwhile looking at the PNG art, and Papua New Guineans are artistic by nature, and I think maybe eventually we will throw an idea, and maybe we look at a competition sort of stuff in which different artists come with their designs, and of course for which they will be paid for that, and in which they will be rewarded as well on a long.
Jackson's International Airport will also contribute to the retail boom with the announcement of the new duty-free store called Prouds. In partnership with another Fijian company, Fiji's Moti-Bahai groups of companies, the duty-free shop will be located within the departures and arrival areas of Jackson International Airport.
Okay, it gives me immense pleasure to announce that CPL as a group, combined with our joint venture partners, Moti-Bahai company from Fiji, have won the bid for the National Airport Corporation duty-free stores. And this is quite a milestone actually, because for years now Papua New Guinea airports have been quite sort of run down and not up to the international standards. What this will bring is absolute international standards compared to Australia, New Zealand, Singapore. Our joint venture partners from Fiji has been in the duty-free business specifically for the last 43 years. So we've got a real hardcore operator. And our aim really is to be the best airport duty-free in the South Pacific Islands. With the Pacific Games coming, that's our target for the opening before that. But you will see something in Papua New Guinea for the first time that you've never seen before. You see a little mock-up here. Unfortunately, construction's underway at the airport, so we cannot take you down there. But you will see international brands which you see in Cairns or Brisbane or Sydney or Singapore, from Christian Dior to YSL to Estee Lauder to Rolex watches to Swarovski crystal jewelry to Lindt chocolates, international brands of liquor and tobacco. So there's a whole gamut of things, and I think it will really is going to be state-of-the-art, and it's basically going to blow the travelers away. I mean, you will no longer need to hopefully shop in Cairns or Brisbane, but come back home and shop here in leisure.
When Proud opens its door mid this year, it will feature a long list of impressive high-fashion brands including Chanel, Christian Dior, Rolex and Swarovski, to name a few. With the unprecedented economic growth, PNG retail industry is set to have more investors looking for potential green pastures. Port Moresby and other centres around the country will have a boom in job opportunities, and consumers will be given quality products that were once hard to find in the country. Unfortunately, other centres around the country won't be seeing the unprecedented change until international investors have a strong hold in the markets here in Port Moresby before moving to other centres. JAX of PNG is hoping to move to other centres soon enough to allow the rest of PNG to experience the retail buzz.
Only one store, so eventually we roll out more stores, and of course it's going to create a lot of job opportunities in Papua New Guinea, especially for Papua New Guineans, of course. We are looking at some sites in Port Moresby, and eventually maybe something may click soon. And of course, we may be also looking at moving out of Port Moresby, and opportunities are there. I think if we get the right site, we may move into Leh, Mount Hagen, I think, and few other locations and outstations. As long as we get the right spot, and of course we get the support as well from the local community, I'm sure they will be supporting us for sure. And definitely, yes, we have plans.
I love everything about JAX of PNG, the location, how the shop is arranged. All family can come here and shop in, from bubus to children. And there's everything for everyone. The most thing I like about JAX of PNG are the Fijian design. As Papua New Guineans, one of the Fiji, we're part of the Pacific region, so I'll be proud to wear any shirts or any clothes that has Pacific patterns on it.
You can see it's appealing to everyone, different groups of people. I would encourage others to come and check out the shop. You will find something for yourself here.
Coming up on the show, Executive Director of the Business Council of Papua New Guinea, Douveri Henao, shares his thoughts on APEC 2018. 2018 is a big year for the country as we join the ranks of other notable economies who have hosted the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. But what exactly is APEC, and why is Papua New Guinea hosting the event in 2018 such a significant accomplishment for our island country? Tonight on the show, I have with me the Executive Director of the Business Council of Papua New Guinea, Mr. Douveri Henao. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Very well, Leanne.
Okay, so on to the topic of APEC 2018. In layman terms, can you explain what this event is and why it's such a significant event in the country, and especially since the Business Council of Papua New Guinea has such a big role to play in it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the important thing about APEC is its configuration. Sure. So APEC consists of 21 economies. Again, the reason why they say economies rather than countries, technically some of those members are not countries. Okay. Hong Kong, China, and Taiwan, for example. Sure. So 21 economies from East Asia coming down all the way up to southern part, which Papua New Guinea is located. And then it goes up through the Americas all the way to Russia. So that entire area of the Pacific, that constitutes what's known as the APEC. The interest of APEC and the interest of these 21 economies, including Papua New Guinea, is to enhance trade, investment, and business among the countries. So it's a bit like we're wanting our coffee to go to East Asia, to China, to Singapore. We want it to go to America. And how do we allow that particular movement of trading goods and even our own people How do we allow them to go and work there without any disruptions, any barriers? And at the same time, how do we encourage investments to come into Papua New Guinea? So the fundamental thrust and interest of APEC is all about encouraging economic trade investment relations within the 21 economy members. It's also a very interesting group, primarily because they do not bind themselves to agreements, to contracts, to treaties. They use the word non-binding. So, for example, if the United States is quite keen on shale energy, then through that initiative and that interest they have, they will go out to the 21 economy members trying to see if they can make movement on things like shale gas energy. The Chinese would be interested in trying to increase their footprint on trade. So they will have that initiative going forward. And for Papua New Guinea in 2018, we will have that unique position to put together a number of areas that we're keenly interested in to promote within that APEC 2018 conversation. So again, just to put some context in that, the combined 21 economies constitute of over 52% of global wealth. It also consists of roughly 48 to 49% of all of global trade. So we're looking at a huge economic pool where global players talk to each other. China and America, this is one show that they're in. So it's an exciting forum, and for Papua New Guinea, and in particular the Business Council, we do see the virtues of APEC as an important part of our development. International trade and investment does bring opportunities for Papua New Guinea. And more importantly, the East Asian part of APEC, that is the growth region for the next 20 years. So being part of this configuration, being part of this group, it does give us that opportunity to engage with the East Asian economies and even with Australia and the Americas, but primarily the East Asian economies, to look at opportunities, look at investments, and even to look at ways in which we can collaborate in evolving our natural resources to be exported there, and vice versa, for them to also make investments here. So we're certainly excited about 2018. There's a lot of work to be done. We obviously have a number of policy issues that we need to consider with regards to 2018. But just very briefly, the role of the Business Council and in the APEC space, the overall discussions of APEC is managed by the governments of the 21 economies. In our case, the Prime Minister has appointed Mr. Lahui Ako as the Director General of the APEC Secretariat within his department. So they fundamentally coordinate the APEC conversations and discussions. And because it's economic trade investment, we've got at least 5 to 6 different departments and ministers participating in these areas. So the Prime Minister's department coordinates the policy discussions in them. And a couple of weeks ago, you would have also noted that there is now a PNG APEC authority, which Mr. Chris Hawkins is the interim CEO. And his fundamental role is to coordinate the logistics and the administrative issues involved. So on that press that they have on the 1,000 days left in the APEC, you would have observed that these two gentlemen and their role in the APEC with regards to the governmental aspects is what they are actually preparing the 2018 forum for. Now, separate from the government APEC team is the private sector. And the private sector is led by an organization known as the APEC Business Advisory Council, or the acronym is ABAC. And ABAC works closely with the APEC officials of the 21 economies in putting the business inputs into the policy and the international regional relations. Sure. And so the Prime Minister has appointed 6 gentlemen to be part of that advisory for Papua New Guinea. Mm-hmm. And the 3 representatives are Mr. Wayne Golding from Kina group of companies. You also have Matthew Chung as part of the Garamut Holdings. Mm-hmm. And the president of the Business Council, David Toa, is a representative there. The other alternates are Mr. Augustine Mano of MRDC. You also have Rio Fiocco Lawyers, and the final one is Ezekiel Taureka, the Vice President of Interoil. So these gentlemen represent collectively the business interest of Papua New Guinea in the discussions of APEC. Yep. And the APEC is also a very, very important institution within the APEC structure, primarily because the APEC mirrors its chairs in each of the host countries. So this year, the host country is the Philippines. You will have a APEC chair. You will also have an APEC chair. And we're quite delighted that the current APEC chair, Ms. Doris Magsese Ho, will be coming to Papua New Guinea next month, and she will also have an opportunity to address the private sector and business about the role of APEC and her own personal journey as chair. So it's an important element within the APEC configuration, and through the efforts of APEC, critical rules have also evolved. If I can just give you one example of those types of rules, the movement of people is a very important part of business. If you have a very talented machinist that can change and recalibrate a machine in a mine or in a factory somewhere in Papua New Guinea or around the APEC, you want this person to fly in immediately, change it, and then fly out again. But because of visas and work permits and a whole lot of other governmental regulations, it may not permit the access of these sorts of people. And through the efforts of the APEC Business Advisory Council 15 years ago, the APEC leaders adopted what we now have as the APEC Business Travel Card. And the Business Travel Card allows Papua New Guinean businesses, officials, to freely travel within the APEC region. There's still an exception on a number of APEC economies that haven't subscribed to that based on their own internal domestic policy. For example, the United States does not recognize the APEC card yet for security reasons. So it's this sort of initiative that the APEC is an integral part of the events leading up to APEC 2018. And we're excited that the Business Council can be part of that discussion. And we certainly look forward to bringing more private sector, especially the SMEs. They've got wonderful initiatives and stories that they can contribute into the APEC discussion. And certainly the role of the Business Council through the APEC is to promote those sorts of opportunities and also those sorts of engagements.
Okay. Still to come, the OBG Corner with Marco Venditti. Welcome back. In this new edition of the OBG Corner, editorial manager of the PNG Report, Mark Venditti, speaks to Mark Baker of ANZ PNG.
Good evening and welcome back to the show. My name is Marco and this is the OBG Corner. Our guest tonight is Mark Baker. He's the managing director of ANZ, which is the third largest lender in Australia, and the second in PNG, with a long history since 1910. Mark Baker also has a long experience internationally. He has worked in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, in Hong Kong, in India, and now in PNG. He has specialized over the year in services to the natural resources sector, therefore we think he's the right man for this country. Mark, good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. The ANZ has just recently published the first quarterly business survey in PNG. Not the first of its kind, but the first time in PNG. Can you tell us more about the concept of this product and what were the results of the findings of the report? Yeah.
Thanks, Marco. It's great to be here. What we're trying to do with this survey, and as you say, it's quarterly, first time we've done this in Papua New Guinea, is really take a pulse of business in the country, and we'll repeat this quarterly so that over a period of time, as we get a larger database of companies and more repeats of the actual survey, we'll get a real sense of where people are seeing the economy at any one point in time.
Okay. What were the findings of the report for the first time in PNG?
Well, I think before I go into the findings, it's probably worth just giving your viewers a little bit of information about how we did this.
Okay,
so,
the methodology of that.
Yeah, so what we did was we surveyed 73 companies,
okay.
And there were 32 questions in the survey, which was done online last month. And the companies we chose were from a variety of sectors. They were also geographically spread across Papua New Guinea. Okay. And in addition to that, they were also a mix of importers and exporters, so a pretty good balance. We really asked some questions which went across three areas: how their business is doing now compared to yesterday, how they think their business will do in 12 months' time, and how they see things 5 years and 5 years plus. So the findings were quite interesting and perhaps no surprise to people, but right now companies are doing it tough was really the message that we got from them. When you look out 12 months, actually there's a level of cautious optimism amongst companies, and when you go 5 years out, there's really quite a lot of optimism from the people who responded to the survey.
I see. So why is it tough at the moment for PNG?
We thought about this actually as these results came back in. I think the view we have is part of this is really related to the structural change which is going on in the economy right now. We've been talking about this transition for PNG between the LNG project having been completed and all of the impetus which came with construction, to the fact that we haven't yet seen the real benefits really flowing through to the extent that they certainly will in the future. So we are still in this transition phase. I think if you overlay that with the fact that the global economy is still under some pressure, when you combine those two things and think about what PNG exports in terms of commodities and the relationship that has all the way through the economy, that's probably why we think that's really underpinning this issue we've got at the moment.
The reason why. At the end of the day, though, the man on the street wants to see also those differences, yeah, and that income that might come into this country soon. When will they see that? Because at the end of the day, the money is trickling down into the economy, but people are not seeing that difference, and everybody's expecting that. So,
I mean, it will come without a doubt. I mean, I think Papua New Guinea is in a fantastic position. Okay. When you look at this country, particularly 3 years out and beyond, the amount of potential for the country is just extraordinary. And I think, as I've heard people say, Papua New Guinea has what the world wants, and yes, right now I think it's difficult for the man on the street to see, well, what does that mean for me with the kina in my pocket? But with some patience and with the things that we're seeing around the Sovereign Wealth Fund being established and just other structural issues which are being dealt with, over time this will come through, and I think we'd be sitting here in 5 years' time having a very different conversation.
Well, you and I are Europeans, and we wish we could count on that sort of income coming into our...
If you're sitting in Europe right now, you wish you'd be in Papua New Guinea.
Absolutely. I was interested in one of the findings of the report where it says that short-term pain and long-term gain. In a way, that seems to be the story about Papua New Guinea all the time. You know, people are always saying, well, the future is going to be better, the future is going to be better, not the present. Is it also sort of a cultural thing, you think, in a way that the Papua New Guineans are always expecting perhaps the future to be better than what the present is?
I think everybody wants the future to be better than it is presently,
well, that's true.
Wherever you're from.
Yeah.
But I think this is different in many ways. I know people have heard that before as well. But the reason I think it's different is when you look at what's going on, we've got all of what Papua New Guinea has and historically always has had, whether it be gold, copper, nickel, tuna, coffee, the list goes on. And then you overlay it with a gas project the size of what has just been executed, and a second one coming, and a third train on the existing project. That's what's different this time round. So with a bit of patience and continued stability, which is important, that's what we'll really see things come through in coming years. Yeah.
So you're saying there is no silver bullet, just hold on to it, is going to come.
That's exactly it, which is, so there are some short-term issues right now, structurally, where when you have a GDP of around $12 billion and you then plug in a $20 billion project, there's going to be some issues that need to be dealt with, and I think that's part of structurally what we need to work through, and that will certainly ease over time.
Absolutely. At the beginning of the year, there were a lot of speculation about GDP growth, and in 2015 we heard numbers. Obviously, the double digit seems to be the key word, but numbers around 20%. But since the oil has dropped dramatically, those numbers have been reduced consistently. From ANZ point of view, what do you think is going to be realistically the GDP growth this year?
I mean, we've still got forecasts, I mean, around GDP growth in the double digits, but I think the important thing around that number is that's a year-on-year percentage growth. It's actually the long-term norm is the one to look at. And we have numbers of 5 to 6% as ANZ internally on that number, which, again, if you're sitting in Europe or many countries,
I'll sign to that.
You would sign up for that immediately. So we still haven't really changed in that way. I think the important thing, yes, oil prices have put a lot of pressure on projects and on economics. But what we're looking at with the LNG project is a project which is very, very robust in terms of the numbers and the efficiency, if you like, or the return that project actually generates. So, and when you look at the big majors, they look through these cycles. They don't look at these short-term ones. They've got a horizon which sees through these cycles which are in at the moment for oil prices.
They take it for granted, basically, essentially. Let's come to the risks, because it's not only a rosy story here. There are risks identified with doing business in PNG. I think it's competition, regulatory framework, and liquidity, which somehow affect also the banks. So what can we say about that?
So these were the top three that the survey came back with. When we actually looked into the responses in a bit more detail, what we found was the first one, which was competition, and the third one around liquidity, there was a bit of overlap because there were people answering within competition that was competition for dollars, or competition for currency. So that, when you combine it with liquidity piece, is really talking quite loudly to the pressure that the companies are feeling right now around getting hold of foreign currency, which we know is an issue. And I'll come back to that in a moment. The second point, which was raised, which was on the regulatory framework piece. Now, that actually was when we delved into that, was more around security, law and order, and corruption. So these are three factors which have been issues within PNG for some time. So nothing really new on those. But if I can go back to the liquidity piece. What customers are facing right now, we see it every day, is the ability to get hold of dollars. And I think what is important to understand is that the kina as a currency is a thinly traded currency. The Australian dollar has got a lot of deep liquidity and don't have the thinly traded issues that perhaps the kina does have. What we're seeing at the moment is a shortage of dollars. And that's really a function of when you look at where dollars come from, it's from the exporters. So gold, copper, nickel and the like. All of those commodity prices have fallen over the last 12 months. Volumes have also come down as well. So naturally there's less dollars in the market. On the import side, where people want the dollars, that demand is as high as it's been. So there's a mismatch. Now, the question I often get asked is how long do we think that will last for? And that's very, very difficult to actually put a number to. But it will get better. Because when you look at how the economy will change over the coming years, there will be a natural flow of dollars coming into the economy. So we're in a position right now, the short-term pain, where companies are having to work through this, through payment terms with their suppliers, these kind of things. But over the medium term, this will get better, but difficult to put an actual date on it.
Mark, thank you very much. I hope this is not the last time we'll have you on the show, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
And that's all we have for you tonight. For more business news, so if you would simply like to view this episode again, visit EMTV online at www.mtv.com.pg. Or to join the conversation, like our page on Facebook for daily business news, or follow us on Twitter at Business PNG using the hashtag Business PNG. Until next week, have a pleasant evening. I'm Leanne Jarari, and this is Business PNG.